it's time to strap into your trapeze harness because we are going to be taking a look at the results from the 2021 Global Speed Stick on JOYRIDER TV. Hello, yes, it's Joe here for JOYRIDER TV. Let's jump in and see who's sailing what and how fast they're going. So we've actually had 105 entries to the leaderboard last year, and in 105th was Ryan sailing in Canada 10.91 knots on a laser, as was Dirk in 104th sailing in France in Cap Cos, just notching it up a bit there with 11.9 knots. Then our youngest sailor on the leaderboard, Ben, sailing with his dad Chris on the Prindle 19 in Lake Somerville, Texas, 12.43 knots. Very good job there, Ben. Well played. Then in 102nd, as featured on Show Us She Cat, we had Emile on the Hobie 17 Sport, sailing in Brittany, France, with a speed of 12.52. Then in 101st, William and Matteo on a New Cat F1, sailing in Montpellier, France, with a speed of 12.6. Yes, that's right. I'm just flying through because we've got a lot to fly through. In 100th position was Danielle sailing a laser on Lake Bracciano, Italy, with 12.7. And then also in 99th was Danielle on Lake Bracciano on a Hobie 14 with a speed of 13.26, cooking the goose. And then right here in Vasiliki, Greece, we had Barney sailing a laser radial with a speed of 13.4. Great job there, Barney. Look forward to seeing you this summer. And then in 97th, and this is a new entry from last time, was on a Hobie Teddy, Christoph sailing on Concordia Lake, Germany, with a speed of 13.49. We had a Hobie Wave of Ron Siemens sailing in Sanford, Florida, USA, speed 14 knots. Then just notching it up, 14.10, we had Matt and Bobby sailing in Hammond Bay, Michigan, USA, on a Prindle 16. Boom. Then in Poland, on an unpronounceable lake, sailing an A-class, was Marcin with a speed of 14.15 knots. Oh, yes. 93rd for Charles and Lisa on a Hobie 18, Georgia, USA, 14.4. Then Danielle is there in 92nd and 91st on an A-class, and then solo on a Hobie Tiger, both with speeds of 14.4. Wow, that guy is consistent. All right, and then in 90th position, sailing in Alexandria, Egypt, we had Aziz, as featured on Show Us She Cat, but this time on his old Dart 16, 14.77. Also was featured on Show Us She Cat in 89th, we had Frank sailing from St. Catherine's Multi-Hull Club, Canada, on the Prindle 15, 14.85. In 88th, we had 3 Up, Hugh, Emily and Mia sailing a Dart 18 in Barry, South Wales, with a speed of 14.9. And then banging it in on 15 knots on the nose, sailing in Ammersee, Germany. And here they are. Check out these guys. They know how to have a good time. That's Hanno and Michael on a Hobie 16. Great job, guys. Looking forward to seeing what you can do in the new year. Then in 86th, we had Brett and Scott sailing in NACRA Infusion Mark 1 in Minnesota, USA, with a speed of 15.03. Then with a speed of 15.5, sailing on Merritt Island, Florida, was Robin sailing with Jeff from GearReport.com. That's right. Absolutely having a lovely time there on the Hobie 16. And here he is in 84th. This is Josh sailing solo on his Hobie 16 in Coleroy, New South Wales, Australia. Speed 15.5. Cooking the goose. Then Also, as featured on Show Us Your Cat, here's Paul with My Dirty Hobie. It's a Hobie 16 in Bad Zwischenhahn, Germany. Speed 15.7. Then Robin, who was featured with Jeff just now in Merritt Island, Florida, did a better speed while sailing on her own. Speed 16.1, Hobie 16 there. Lovely. 81st for Jean-Francois on a NACRA 500, sailing in Hong Kong, 16.1. Then we had Hugh and Andy G, as he's known to his friends, sailing a Dart 18 in Barry, South Wales, in 80th position with a speed of 16.2. 80th, 16.2. This is the caliber of this year's speed stick. In 79th, everybody's favourite fisherman in Japan is Keith on the Hobie 14, sailing in Okinawa with a speed of 16.7. There's Ian also sailing in Auckland, New Zealand, also banging in 16.7, sailing solo on the 16. Also solo on the 16, exactly the same speed. Near to Sao Paulo, Brazil, we had Murillo sailing 16.7 knots. Then notching it up slightly was Jack and Brett sailing a Hobie 16 in Deal, New Jersey, USA, 16.76 knots. Then we had Danielle sailing with Karen on a Tiger in Lake Bracciano, Italy, 16.8. Woo! We are notching it up here. Then in 74th, sailing in Thunder Bay, Michigan, USA, was Zach sailing solo on the Hobie 18 SX with a speed of 16.8. And now here we've got the route taken by Alex and Eric on their Supercat 17 in Bahia, Brazil, with a speed of 16.84 knots. Incidentally, this is a map by Relive. It's a great way of visualizing what you've done. You can sync your GPS with this. Looks very nice. I think you will agree for sure. We had Shane and Jim sailing a 16 on Lake Elsinore, California, 16.9. Then 16.98 for Andy and Sandy on a 16 in Canada, English Bay, Vancouver there. And now we're in 70th, banging it in Halmstad, Sweden. We have Isaac and Martin on a F18, a Capricorn. That's the Mark 1. That would be what is the C1 to the C2, if you know what I mean. 17.2 knots. Then we had Wolf and Lars on a Top Cat K2X sailing in Germany with a speed of 17.28. 17.29 for Chain on a Hobie 20 solo in Lake Elsinore, California. Then in 66th position in Maputo, Mozambique, sailing on the Hobie Pearl, we have Damien and Dimitri with a speed of 17.32. Cooking that goose. What a pearl. Then in 65th position, there's Chain again, this time on a Hobie 14 Turbo. Yeah, with a speed of 17.4. 17.4 also for Matt and John sailing a Tiger in Guernsey on the Channel Islands of the UK. Very nice. Then in 63rd, as featured on Show Us Your Cat, we had Lee on his Sprint 15 sailing out of Marconi on the east coast of the UK, 17.5. 17.5 also for Steve, Jack and Adolfo sailing a Hobie 16, Monterey, California, USA. So in 61st, we had Scott and Logan sailing a Hobie 18 SX on Lake Elsinore, California. Speed 17.81. All 17.9s coming in next for Arno, for Giles and William, and for Bill, all banging in 17.9. That's one in the US, one in the UK, and one for Canada. Good work there, guys. Then in 57th, we had Lorenz and Annette sailing a Hobie Fox in Poddersdorf, Austria, with a speed of 18.09 knots. Then pretty recently, fresh in 56th position for Dane and Scott sailing a NACRA 5.8 in Clear Lake, Texas, 18.2. Then we had 18.25 for Jish sailing the Maricat 4.3 in New South Wales, Australia, as featured in Show Us Your Cat. Then in Kittery, Maine, same speed for Charlie and Franklin on the Hobie 16. Great work there, guys. Okay, notching it up to 53rd for Richard, sailing a Hobie 16 solo in the USA on Rockport Reservoir, Utah. Oh yeah, Rockapulco, 18.3 knots. Then we had Mikhail and Peter sailing a NACRA 5.5 in Lake Run, Fallon, Sweden, 18.33. And then notching it up a bit more in 51st, as featured on Show Us Your Cat, not in the bush this time, for Mike and Benno on the Hurricane 5.9 SX, sailing in Gerswaldersee, Germany, 18.4, which was also the speed for Colin sailing his Hobie 14 in Victoria, Australia. In 49th, we had Oliver sailing a Hobie 14 in Plönernsee, Germany, 18.46. Then 18.5 for Alberto and Jose, as featured on Show Us Your Cat on the Hobie 17 Sport, Rappel Lake, Chile. Oh yeah. Same speed in 47th for Glenn and Matthew on the Prindle 18 on Lake Tahoe, California, USA. Then we're notching it up with 18.5 also for 18.52 for Paul sailing a Hobie 16 solo in Marina di Chute in Italy. Very nice job there. And then we had Scott sailing solo on the Hobie 18 SX in Lake Elsinore, California, 18.51. Now these, I'm just rattling through a big list of numbers here, but let's not forget that over 18 knots single-handed on anything is absolutely flying. So very well done to everybody for banging in these big speeds. 44th position for Zach and Don, sailing the Hobie 18 SE with the SX wings. I hope I got that right. That's in Thunder Bay, Michigan, with a speed of 18.6, which is also the speed, same venue, for Amy, Greg and Zach sailing a Hobie 18 SX. Then we had Frederick and Sebastian sailing a Hobie 16 in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. Very nice. That must be lovely at the moment. And then we had Danielle and Luca on the Hobie Tiger sailing in Lake Bracciano, Italy. I think Danielle wins it for the amount of entries sailing different boats with different configurations. You can get on the speed stick on the same boat twice if you're sailing in one instance 2 up and on one instance solo. Then we had Ed Owens here sailing solo on the Hobie 16 in Williamsburg, Virginia, USA, 18.85, smashing it. Then over across the border to the north to Canada on Lake Huron, Ontario with 18.9. We had Stephen also solo on the 16. Keeping it in Canada, solo on the 16, we had David with 18.94 knots. All the speeds are in knots. Just so you know, I think it's good to know. Then in 32nd, and here they are, we had Holger and Guido sailing a Tiger on Gravelingenmeer in the Netherlands, Holland, 19.06 knots. Very nice. And then, as featured recently on Show Us Your Cat in 36th for Aziz on his new Top Cat K2X in Egypt, speed 19.12. And then here he is, it's Scott here on the Hobie 16 solo, Lake Norman, North Carolina, USA, speed 19.2 knots. And then we had Attila and Laszlo sailing an 18 Magnum on Lake Balaton, Hungary, with a speed of 19.22. Then in 33rd, we had Timon sailing an FX1 in Gromitz, Germany, with a speed of 19.37, which is the same speed and the same type of boat almost as in 32nd. We had Robert sailing an Hobie FX1 2. That means he had a jib on there. In Zeevold, Netherlands. Might have to look into those numbers a bit there. But then in 31st, we had Mark and Kirsten sailing the Hobie 18 SX. Here they are with a speed of 19.4 knots. In Nashville, Tennessee, we had Brian and Shane on the Hobie 20 Miracle, Lake Elsinore, California, speed 19.47 knots. Smashing in the big ones. And then who is this guy? Yes, it's Dave. This is Office Hands Dave sailing solo on his 16 with a speed of 19.5 knots. Lake Lanier, Georgia. Very good in 29th. Then in 28th, we had Fulvio sailing in Qatar, in Doha. Solo also on a Hobie 16, 19.5. Same speed, in fact. Then in 27th, here we have Eric and Scott on a Hobie 18 sailing in Melbourne, Florida, USA. Not to be confused with the other one, 19.7 knots. Boom. And then in 26th, we had Sven and Dave sailing a Hobie 18 SE in St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands with a speed of 19.76. Big speeds. And then in 25th, we had Gustavo and Andres sailing a Hobie 16 in Puerto Rico with a speed of 19.8. Must be lovely in the Caribbean just now. I think we'll all be thinking that. And then in 24th, we had Barn and Stein with sailing a NACRA 5.7 out of Cat Club Zeeland in Holland. Speed 19.98. So close to the Big 20. But banging in with the Big 20, sailing on the boat called Fast Furniture. It's a 40-year-old Tornado sailed by Scott and Tom, Galveston Bay, Texas, 20.3. And then also with 20.3 in the club, sailing in Pittwater, New South Wales, Australia, was Josh and Matt with the Hobie 16. Very nice. Good job there, guys. Then in 21st, same speed for Jerome and Thomas sailing a 16 in Langangui in France. And then in 20th, it's getting spicy now, I think you'll find, was Matt and Jamie sailing a 16 in Queenstown, New Zealand, speed 20.4. I believe they might have actually been the first boat on the speed stick last year as well. In 19th, we had Casey sailing solo on a 16, Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, 20.52. Also sailing solo on the 16, but unfortunately not the fastest solo 16 this time. 20.59 for Scott, dropping it in the slot, and Coltus Lake, Oregon, USA. And then in 17th position, great job there, Scott, by the way. We had Niels and Eddie on the Rockport Reservoir, Utah, sailing a 16, 20.6. Another Hobie 16, this time In Victoria, Australia for Nigel and Anthony with a speed of 20.8. And then in 15th, we've got Christopher and Sten sailing a Tornado in Öregrund, Sweden with a speed of 20.9. Smashing it there, guys. Great to see some tornadoes on the stick. Where's the other tornadoes? I'll tell you where. They're not on the stick. That's where. And then in 14th, we had Anthony and Maz sailing a Hobie 16. Again in Victoria, Australia, 21.2. And then notching it up for Hein and Philip in 13th, sailing a Nacra 20 in Markermeer, Holland, speed 21.4. That is some serious speed there. Very quick indeed. Then in 12th, we had Timon and Finn sailing a Hobie Pacific in Grommitz, Germany, speed 21.6. And then also same speed for Jonathan and Troy sailing a Hobie 16 in the US in Lake McConaughey, Nebraska. Don't hear much about Nebraska on the speed stick, but there it is. And then here he is. That is looking like it's cooking for JF Jagalt in Doha, Qatar, sailing solo on the Hobie 16, 21.7 knots, and finishing the speed stick just inside the top 10. Great job there. And then in 9th, we had Cor and Philip on a Nacra 20 in Markermeer, Holland, 21.9. Quick. In 8th position, and to be honest, I don't let many speeds from here get on the stick, but this was a special one for Mans and Amanda sailing a Hobie 16 right here in Vasiliki Bay with a speed of 22.1. Great job there, guys. And then in 7th position, in Santa Catarina, Brazil, with a speed of 22.1, we had Rodrigo and Yuka. 7th place. Great job. Very good. And it was, backpedaling slightly, it was JF Jagalt in Qatar who had first place, single-handed, Hobie 16. Very good job there. Now in 6th place, Littleton Harbour, New Zealand, speed 22.2. We have Matt and Bobby on the Hobie 16, absolutely smashing it there. Great job, guys. Finishing in 6th place. And then in 5th place, the big speeds from the UK at Grafham Water. We had Steve and Jeremy sailing the Nacra into 20 as featured on Show Us Your Cat with a speed of 22.8 knots. Boom. Then in 4th place, we had Judah and Isaac sailing a Prindle 18 in Deal, New Jersey, USA, speed 23.43. That is very, very quick. Well done. And now it's the podium. And in 3rd place on the podium, as featured on Show Us Your Cat, was Tiger and Craig. That isn't Tiger and Craig on the speed run in this video, but we get the idea. Sailing the Hobie 20 SX, Mount Dora, Florida, USA, with a speed of 23.9 knots. That is so quick. Very nice indeed. 2nd position, and this is absolutely unbelievable. We had Scott sailing in Galveston Bay, Texas, 25.1 knots. But what is most amazing is that he was single-handed on the Prindle 18.2 modified. Yes, Scott has been sailing catamaran since 1988, and this Prindle 18.2 has been heavily modified. You can quite obviously see as it's launching out of the waves there, the mainsail and jib, which are not original by any stretch of the imagination. But the thing that makes this particular boat even quicker is the fact that it's 3 meters wide. That is some width. The wider the boat is, the more power you can pin down. That is how Scott has banged in this big speed. Very well done, Scott. Looking forward to seeing what you've got up your sleeve for this year. And then in first place, and this is the fastest I've ever heard of a Hobie 16 going, we had Guy and Steve sailing out of Cairns, Queensland, Australia with a speed of 27.6 knots. So very well done to Guy and Steve. Send me an email with your address. I'll get your prizes in the post to you guys. Very good. I can't believe we'll be seeing any speeds as big as that before too long. But there we go. So what is now going to happen to this speed stick? It is going to be put in and merged with the all-time leaderboard. So we will be able to have over the years an all-time leaderboard with more big speeds on it, more people sailing, and it's a great record. If you've not yet been on the speed stick, but you do go out sailing quite a lot, all you need to do is take a phone with you in a dry bag, running an app like Strava. That will tell you how fast you went, and then send me the details. I'll put you on the speed stick. Thanks very much to everybody who's been getting involved. And thanks again to everybody who's been supporting JOYRIDER TV, especially over these cold winter months. You can support JOYRIDER TV by heading to totaljoyrider.com and getting yourself one of these bad boys. So I'll see you soon with some more on JOYRIDER TV. Let me know if you are ready for the speed stick. We've already got our first entry to the speed stick. In first place, sailing out of Torquay, Victoria, Australia with a speed of 15.4 knots. We've got Brendan and Lana on a Hobie 16 in first. Well done, guys. Thanks very much. See you soon with some more on JOYRIDER TV.